We're speaking with Negar Mottahedeh, author of Displaced, Allegories, Post-Revolutionary Iranian Cinema. February is the 30th anniversary of the Iranian Islamic Revolution. How did Ayatollah Khomeni link cinema and revolution when he arrived in Tehran from exile in France?
So, Khomeini arrived to Tehran from his long exile in France on February 1st, 1979. This was after a series of unrest in the capital, in Tehran. And it's interesting, on the anniversary of his celebration, on the 30th anniversary of his celebration, the Iranian government has restaged his entry back into the country on Air France, at the airport, at Mehrabad Airport. And there are musicians, there's a huge gathering, and an image of him stepping out of Air France. So it's obvious that this moment was a very important event in the history of the revolution, the moment that Khomeini stepped off the plane. What's interesting is that following his re-entry into Iran, his decision was to go to the cemetery where the people who had fought for his return were buried. So he went to the cemetery where the martyrs of the revolution, as they were called, were buried. And this was the place, this was the site where he gave his first speech. And what's interesting is that within moments, literally minutes from the beginning of his speech, within minutes of his arrival back in Iran after years and years of exile, what he speaks about, what this the spiritual, this theological leader speaks about, is the role of cinema and television in the new Islamic Republic. And what he says, so you asked about the link between cinema and nation. And so in this speech, what he says is that the previous government, the Pahlavi regime, the Shahs of Iran, the kings of kings, they had corrupted the Iranian nation. They had corrupted the youth. And they had done this by using film technology and television in the service of imperialism, in the service of American media images, in the service of commercialism. So essentially what he said is that, the previous regime corrupted our youth. And our intention in this, and in corrupting our youth, has dissipated the energies of our nation. So this is the link between cinema and the nation. Essentially what he's saying, at least in my interpretation of it, is that the camera, the sound system in cinema, is an extension of the eyes and the ears of the nation's body. So if we think about the nation as a body, film technologies are the eyes and the ears of that body. And the eyes and the ears of that body were corrupted by the previous regime because of the images and the sounds and the stories that these technologies projected. So he essentially says we are not opposed to these technologies. These modern technologies are technologies that are important to the education of the people and the development of the people. So there's nothing wrong inherently with modern technologies. It is how these technologies have been used, what they have channeled essentially through the body of the nation, that needs tempering. So following his arrival in Iran, he sort of encouraged the production of films, but in a specifically Islamic way.
How is film being used to celebrate the anniversary this year?
So one of the things that happens every year, actually, it's been going on since 1982, just 3 short years after Khomeni's arrival in Iran, was that a series of celebrations were held in Iran for 10 consecutive days, from February 1st, which is the date of Khomeni's arrival at Mehrabad airport, and the 10 days following. In the course of these 10 days, one of the celebrations that covers the span of those 10 days is the Fajr Film Festival. It's a celebration of international films, and it involves multiple international competitions. This year, 227 feature-length documentary short films and animations compete for the Simorgh, the Crystal Simorgh, which is like the Venice Biennale's Golden Lion, or the Cannes Film Festival's prize. So there are Polish films, Turkish films, Bosnian films, Japanese films, films from all over the world virtually, competing for the Simorgh Prize in various different categories. And so this is one of the ways in which the role of film, I guess, in the celebration of the 30th anniversary of the establishment of the Islamic Republic and the revolution.
Tell us about one of the winners of the film festival.
So all the winners, we're recording this on February 10th, and all the winners are not in yet. The winner for the best film for the festival has not been voted in yet, but the audience has voted, and the Crystal Simorgh Audience Award has gone to Bahram Beyzai for the film called When We Were All Dreaming. So I wanted to say just a few things about Bahram Beyzai, because he's a little-known filmmaker outside of Iran, but he's a very popular filmmaker within Iran. Bahram Beyzai has been very critical of the Islamic regime since its beginning, especially its insistence, the government's insistence on a certain representation of women. So Beyzai opposes, for example, the veiling of all women of all time periods in all of the Islamic Republic's films. So the Islamic Republic insists that all women are veiled regardless of the era that the film is representing, right? So there was an era between the 1930s and 1960s that women never veiled, and yet the government insists that these women be veiled in the film. So Bahram Beyzai has had a lot of trouble around the representation of very strong women characters in his films, and so he's had, not many of his films have actually escaped censorship. So it's a big deal that the audience have voted for him and given him the audience award this year. He's also Beyzai is also known for being the one who, the filmmaker who is most knowledgeable about the history, the language, and the folkloric traditions that are specifically Iranian and national. And so this is another way in which, I guess, the popular vote reflects what Iranians value in filmmakers versus what we as foreign critics outside of Iran value as a good Iranian film, which is usually a representation of beautiful landscapes, simple stories, simple life of rural peoples. And so I think this is a very significant gesture on the part of Iranians themselves to vote for this film.